But yeah, you are. I just realised I randomly put an R in your name. I will fix that now. You are
Yeah.
SteazHornsby, not Straz.
Out in public, I'm Straz, so people don't recognize Steez.
Is that like your
It works surprisingly well.
You put on like a fake mustache, a big hat.
Yeah, big mask with a mustache on top. It's on
Mm-hmm.
top of the mask, not underneath.
Very important. It's very important. But yeah, do you want to give us a little introduction, and then we'll dive deeper in?
Of course. I am SteazHornsby. I am a Goblin Lich. I am a variety streamer on Twitch for many reasons. One, because I'm bored because adventurers stopped coming to my lairs, and I have to find something to do. I also play this game y'all called DnD, and I like bringing people in on that. And I have found a new business venture where I am Twitch's sole provider of Steez Nuts.
Okay. Well, you've done what Poffle asked me to do already, so I can tick that box. I imagine you get it a lot.
What's that?
The Steez Nuts
Steez
joke.
Nut.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such a funny thing on Twitch. I'll go into a new chat and I'll follow, and they're like, "Ahaha, Steez Nuts," and then I'll drop my emote, and they're like, "Wait, you actually have an emote for that?" And I'm like, "Of course I have an emote for that. It's half my brand."
There you go. You're on it. You're like way ahead of the curve. You know your audience, I guess. Makes sense. It makes sense. But yeah, so I guess in order to give this interview a little bit of structure, as I like to do, we could start by going back in time, way back to, I don't know how long it is now. VTubers are very new, but how did you discover VTubers?
Funny enough, TikTok was when TikTok was on the rise. This was fresh off of the HoloLive EN girls debuting. And this is when Gura was all over TikTok. And eventually I'm like, okay, that's it. What is this? And I went on YouTube. First I checked Twitch. And she wasn't on Twitch. So I'm like, Shark Girl anime streamer, and like Gura popped up. I'm like, oh, she's a YouTuber. So I go on YouTube, I watch a few of her clips and all that. I'm like, this is funny. And then, of course, YouTube being YouTube sent me down the VTuber rabbit hole. And I found like more and more and more. Eventually, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And that's how I found them. But even then, it was not a driving factor of like, hey, you should do this. And that's a different story.
So I'm assuming you didn't stream before becoming a VTuber.
I did.
Oh.
I streamed 6 months on Twitch to get the feel on it, and then I did another 4 months on Facebook when Facebook gaming first came out.
You're the first person I've spoken to who has done Facebook streaming.
I would say I was fairly successful within my first 3 months. I got 350 followers on there. I could see the difference between what Twitch did and what Facebook did. One of the big driving factors was at the time of my old employment, my manager also streamed on Twitch. He at the time had like 3,000 followers, played CS:GO, and he, like, me and him would talk about it, kind of like as co-workers and managers would talk. We were just like, oh yeah, I do this too, and blah, blah. We would kind of talk metrics and like do analytics because that always interests us. I wouldn't say that we were close friends, but we were like work friends.
Yeah, like
and eventually and so he came to me one day, like afterward, he's like, hey, Facebook just messaged me and offered me a contract. And I'm like, offered you a contract for what? They're like, they're booting up their streaming thing, and he became one of the first Facebook partners. And they paid him to make the switch, and exploded over on Facebook during I think this was like 3 or 4 years ago when Fortnite was everywhere. It was the only thing on Twitch. It was the only thing in gaming. Like battle royales were the thing.
Yeah.
And he was getting, I think, on Facebook, he was getting 1,000 followers a week
Holy shit.
because Facebook actually pushed your live streams in a algorithm where people can just normally like they scroll through TikTok, you could scroll through content on Facebook, and like live streams would pop up inside of there.
I think that's
And
when
so,
they did a big change to Facebook at one point, and I think that was
yes.
part of it.
So they started doing that, and he's like, you need to ditch Twitch. You need to come to Facebook and do it. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm not really too happy with Twitch. What you're saying is really cool, and I made the switch, and I doubled my following within that it took me 6 months to do in like a month and a half on Facebook. Like the algorithms and all things like that was really, really good. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. And eventually what made me quit on there was not something that Facebook did, or I was on a personal level. I was still going through, wizarding school. And it burnt me out. I got burnt out trying to juggle too many things, and I'm like, I have to kill this. And so yeah, I have about like 9 months of on and off streaming experience on a couple of different platforms.
And then I'm guessing you eventually then discovered VTubers.
I discovered VTubers, but the driving force that made me want to be a VTuber was actually my wife, Julie. We were playing Final Fantasy. We were in one of our FC's Discord, and she would join Discords. And there were a couple of people on random occasions that would just like, with her voice and everything, they're like, "Are you a VTuber?" And she had no idea what that is. And I kind of knew what it was because I had to explain it to her what that is. She's like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." And as soon as the second time it happened, like, you should be a VTuber. Your voice is like that. And she was like, "What if I did that? What if I tried it? Because it seems fun." And I'm like, "Fine, if you do that, I will also get a model and we will do it together." And like, it was the main thing of I was going to be a supporting character for her. I would show up because she needed someone to stream with, and I would just show up.
Like both of you going on the same journey together, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. And then, we were doing character designs, and she had a design, and I kind of had a design that I'm like, okay, I guess I could do this. But eventually, my old manager, not the one from Facebook, but another one, who was also our dungeon master, said, "Hey, what if you did Steaz and Julie?" Because that's where Steaz and Julie came from, was a D&D campaign. And we were like, "That's perfect. I could play a goblin. That's fine." And from there, yeah, she commissioned her model. She started streaming. I got my model done, and I started streaming. And here I am now, 9 months in. I am a goblin on the internet.
Should have that on a little business card. I am a goblin on the internet.
That is a good one.
Give it out at all the social events. So, what was your early days of streaming as a VTuber like compared to streaming as a non-VTuber?
On the analytics side, VTubers seem to be a lot more supportive in their communities, and a lot more people latched onto the theme that I was doing, opposed to being a flesh tuber. And so, hi Zim.
Hello, Zim.
So with that, it just seemed like I don't want to say networked. I made a lot more friends in the VTubing space especially with the other goblins.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a huge goblin community if people don't know. There's I think Calyx is one of the goblins who made a Twitter compendium of all the goblin VTubers and goblin personas on the internet.
There has been a goblin VTuber census.
Yes, that's exactly what we did, and there was like over 180.
Oh shit.
The VTuber compendium, goblin compendium's over 180 members. And it grows every day. I meet a new goblin every day, and it shocks me. So I would say that it was easier for me to make friends with having a common theme than being a person on the internet trying to make friends, because there's a little wariness. And it's one of the things I like about VTubers is looking at a character that someone chooses to represent themselves gives an insight into them.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess it. I've heard stories of the Hololive and how they didn't get to choose their designs and stuff, but that puts a new aspect on indie VTubers, that they have, I guess, themselves comes out in their model a bit more.
I agree, because looking at us, you can obviously tell right off the bat we like fantasy.
Makes sense.
I am a Lich, which is normally in the DnD campaigns. So they know I do like tabletop and I do like DnD. You can also see that I like undead. The undead as a archetype for villains and enemies has always been interesting to me, and there's something just classic about a horde of skeletons rampaging.
You know exactly what's happening when a horde of skeletons.
Exactly.
Get a more dark aesthetic going as well. It's a bit more morbid. But yeah, so you've been going 9 months now. What was the setting up for VTubing like, and getting your model and designing it? Because you said it was based off a D&D character.
So I actually spent a good 4 or 5 months before my first stream looking for, and this is another rabbit hole I went down that I had no idea. I had no idea there were the amount of Goblin special artists.
There are specialized Goblin artists.
Yeah, they are specialized Goblin artists, and I followed every single one of them, whether they were spicy or not. Because funny enough, the spicy ones have the best art.
Well, that seems to be true of the internet.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, I got a character design by one of them that I really liked, because I didn't want to go with the anime aesthetic. But that at the time, VTubing was very, I would say even within the 9 months, it was very new. And anime was everywhere, and I'm like, that doesn't scream me. I can't be as villainous as I want with an anime aesthetic. So I found one that didn't really have an anime aesthetic. I got them commissioned, and then I found people like Redclaw. Redclaw actually did my PNG that I used for my first 3 weeks. And their goblins, I found, were like perfect. I need a Western style goblin. And my current model maker, Zeka, on Zeka Shoe on Twitter, posted. It was just like, I was going 2D, didn't think about going 3D at all, because there was no goblin. There were no goblin like 3D VTubers at the time, besides like ones that were made from Vroid.
Yeah. And
so I was just scrolling through Twitter, and I see someone liked or shared Zeka's own model that they made. They made a 3D model for themselves that was a goblin. And I instantly fell in love. They posted it 30 minutes ago, and I was in their DMs 33 minutes in. And I literally messaged them, how much money do I need to throw at you to make mine? And they were like, I never commissioned one before. I did that for me. And I'm like, that didn't answer my question. How much money do I need to throw at you? Because I need one with your style. And from there I got this. Actually, this is my 1.2 model.
Okay. So did you get the 3D model and then you had an upgrade or an update at some point?
Yeah, during my Resurrection stream where I had a complete channel overhaul, I had my new model done. I have blend shapes, my textures are right, my hands work a little bit better. As you can see, I have knuckles now.
Oh, now you can do unarmed damage.
Yeah, exactly. I love unarmed damage, but I think it needs a little buff, to be honest. And you need at least a D6 instead of the D4s.
Probably, yeah. Or at least base it more off strength and stuff. But
right. I always wanted to make like a brawler class, like an actual brawler class, and not a fighter archetype.
Yeah, I think people have tried to make them, but I don't think there's an official one. But I'm very out of date with what is official.
Oh yeah, trying to maintain the knowledge on Unearthed Arcana is just I give up until like a new official stuff comes out, and then I'll buy the book and read it.
I found a lot of the Unearthed Arcana is very unbalanced as well. So, but I guess they warned that, so we didn't have to worry too much. But yeah, so what was the? You mentioned your wife is also streaming. Does she still stream?
She is a bit on a hiatus right now for personal reasons. She is looking to get back into it. It's just we need to get a couple of ducks in line before she can make her her showing back up.
So did you do much together when you both started streaming?
Oh yeah, all the time. We normally would play co-op games. We played Valheim together. We played Ark together. We did a lot of League of Legends, but only AREM games. She still streams on my channel when we do collabs. She will join in, but she does not stream on her channel for a bit, and that's just because of personal reasons.
Yeah, it's understandable. Sometimes you just gotta have a break, I guess, or work some stuff out. But yeah, so 9 months is pretty long for streaming, I'd say.
Yeah, they say that most washout for streamers is 3 months. So it's one of those things that if you get past the 3-month mark, you're already past like 80% of the people who tried.
There you go. There's something to be proud of if anyone has been streaming for that long. But yeah, so you are a Lich Goblin. You have many other Goblin friends as part of the big overall Goblin horde. Do you have any? Would you say you have any like people that inspired you in your current way of streaming?
Are you talking within the Goblin community or just in VTubers in general?
In general, but goblins, of course.
In general, yeah, there are a few people who I want to be more like or have more of the way that they do things. Two right off the bat is Poppy, the Lich King of Twitch. We have become friends since I've been on, and he says that his production value and all that is like I just do memes. I like all my thing is garbage, but I'm like it's specifically curated stuff, and it's really good, and it all fits, and like just the aesthetic, the theme that he does is on point. The other one who wants to be more of like an educator and like teaches things is Cabal.
Yeah.
And then there's others who have like found their niche, which is what I'm trying to now establish, is like Zozo Horror Show, who does a lot of videos on conspiracy theories, some political issues and different things like that. Like it's stuff that's like out of the ordinary kind of stuff, like cryptids also, and like I know there's a lot of people that she talks about with it's like horror themed. Like it's really things that you're like off of like people believe this, and like yeah, sure enough.
It's kind of crazy what some people believe, but it is also interesting just finding out about that stuff. I'm just seeing. So you mentioned you're still how did you word it? Still trying to work out your niche.
Yeah. The niche that I'm going for now that I have the Resurrection out of the way, like, so the Resurrection was my channel overhaul, my model update, and it was basically like I spent a lot of money on Steaz in the beginning because it's a 3D model and it was very expensive, but it was something that was like a reward for a lot of things that I got to do in life, and I never spent money on
Greetings,
myself.
champion.
So this was the one thing that Julie's like, either you're going to do it or I'm going to buy it for you. So I'm like, fine, I'll pay for it. So I did it. So I got my goblin model, and the resurrection was basically if I had my way in the beginning and knew that I was going to stick with it, because every asset I got was Julie made for me. It was where I would have wanted to start with, and then started streaming. So it was like I said, it was a resurrection. It was me coming back and like this is how I would have wanted to start out with.
So I guess
but the
you're
niche,
full 1.0, you could say, I guess.
yeah, I would say, but I would say, I don't like the VTuber culture of being stuck in the idol culture because of all the because of Hololive and a bunch of the other ones. They brought like a little bit of corporate in them, and I think you could do so much more if we can break away from that. So instead of a re-debut, it was a resurrection.
Yeah, I could see what you mean by that. Yeah, like a next chapter, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a next chapter, because I'm on an unofficial stream team called Team Smooth Brain, and all of us have gotten updates. Like Jummy has rebranded as a Jester. Jesta is working on some stuff. Batbug is working on stuff. Julie is working on some stuff, and I did my thing. We're calling it Season 2.
That's pretty smart. Also, welcome Z Squishy. Thank you for the
Squishy
adventure gear. But yeah, so it sounds like there's a lot going on, and you're connected to a lot of people.
Yeah, and sorry to get back onto the niche thing. Now that my resurrection is done, and I'm in the theme of like my necromancer layer, my lich layer, I am looking to do more D&D content on Twitch instead of what I normally do, which is just a lot of gaming and a lot of talking. I'm wanting to. I have in the works a D&D show, a one-shot adventure show. Where I try and get people of similar themes or on similar teams to, and I will run them through a dungeon that's a single one shot and see if they can survive, because chat's also going to be part of the experience where they can affect what happens in real time.
It seems to be like a pretty smart idea. What do you have like an ideal team in mind? Also, hello Peron. Yeah, we got a cool skull goblin, also lich goblin, I should say.
Right now, no. I mean, there's some people that I would want on because they would know how scuff it's probably going to be the first time around of getting everything done. But there are some fantasy VTubers that I would like to have on the show, and of course, there's like all the goblins I can have on and have goblin adventures. But the things that I was kind of wanting to do on these are like, if there's like a bunch of adventurer VTubers, then they're going to go on the classic hero's journey during this one session. Or if they're goblins, they're going to have a goblin adventure. Or if I have a bunch of horror VTubers, they're going to have like an eldritch, like Call of Cthulhu like experience.
Yeah.
Or there's other things that I would want to do, like murder mysteries, and not just completely like, hey, this is a dungeon crawl. There's going to be a little bit of combat, but I want to guide them through these stories that they would like to run through. And it's not like our role-playing characters that they have made. They're going to be playing as themselves however they want, because I feel like with a lot of the D&D shows or D&D content that is out on Twitch, they try to be the next Critical Role or D20 or Dimension 20.
That's
and to me, I'm like, that's a little too much work.
It's
one. Yeah, it's one. It's too much work, and two, having a reliable group is next to impossible, because as VTubers, we already struggle with time zones. Now try and make that on a weekly basis.
I've run some D&D. It's like organizing just a collab is hard enough, but organizing a collab with D&D is so much harder. But yeah.
So I'd rather people show up, and I'll call it like Dungeon of the Month.
That's a smart idea.
And it'll be a once a month thing, or depending how popular it is, I may make it two times a month.
Ooh. I imagine it's probably going to be one of those things that will gain in popularity, because there are definitely a lot of YouTubers that are trying to get into the roleplay game stuff, but none of them have like necessarily dedicated themselves to it yet.
Yeah.
Or at least not what I've seen.
And as you said, for a group, I'm probably gonna be looking for people who have played before, to minimize learning experiences. But like one of the other things I would do is like I would be okay with doing learning streams where people want to learn D&D and like, okay, here's a bunch of freshly new people, new meat.
Greetings,
let's
champion.
help them out.
Ah, that's Moonbitch. Hello, thank you. I guess
hello, Moon.
the learning one would be good for chat as well, because I've had a few people in my chat that they have wanted to get into D&D, but they don't know where to start or anything. So you doing a learning one, I think would help chat as well as the players, you know.
Yeah, because that's one of the biggest things is they're like, here's the entire world of D&D. You can do whatever you want, and that scares people. They need a little more structure. Like, okay, let's make a character first, and we'll go from there.
Smart. So you're gonna be streaming the character creation as well?
It depends on the episode. For the show in the beginning, it's probably going to be like, hey, here's your homework. You need to make a character. Doesn't matter if it's to your character or not.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, if I ask Barry the Bugbear to be on, he doesn't have to be a barbarian. If he wants to be a cleric, then he can be a cleric. We'll just flavor it like a barbarian.
Yeah. So I guess
I am
flavor.
I am. Yeah. I'm more of the rule of cool versus the rules as written. Like if you can make it sound cool, I'm for it.
Yeah, I think that's a very good philosophy when it comes to role-playing games. Not to get isekai'd by Truckgun into the beautiful world. Is it lasagna? Is lasagna a salad? What?
No, it's a sandwich.
Doesn't that require bread?
No. Well, what are noodles?
This is too existential for me.
Noodles is a type of bread. Thus, it is a sandwich.
That's
Greetings, ally.
my mind. Hello, welcome to Thank you for pulling me out. Oh, food. I don't know enough about food, but Okay, lasagna is a sandwich.
Lasagna is a sandwich.
I'll agree with you.
Just like hot dog is a sandwich.
I'll agree with that. I can understand that one. I
You can understand that one. Okay.
I mix a sausage roll. Steve's please can't do this.
I'm going to say it, and you're going to accept it. That's all you have to do.
Okay. This isn't a spell, right? This isn't a...
No.
Okay. I love watching other DMs. Probably a DM. That's a good question. Oh yeah, chat is free to ask questions. Ask as much as you like.
My DM style, well, one of them, at least for the show, I found a system I'm a little hesitant on. I don't like it completely, but it does the job that I need it to do. That they can pay for like trading cards and play the cards during the session, and it will affect the game. But for DM styles, that is different. I feel like I'm pretty good with improv and letting people do what they want to do, and I can think on my feet pretty well. On doing things and making rulings, and there's a bunch of stuff that with it that the show's going to be different than an average campaign where people are more free to do whatever they want. It is a bit of a railroad.
Yeah, it's sort of
like there will be there will be choices to be made, but they could affect the end outcome. But they will be getting to the same ending, but the ending may be a little different, depending on their things. Like, because it is a curated show, so and that just seems to be like the best option for it. Because otherwise, if you give them too much freedom, it could end up like a 3-hour shopping session.
Oh yeah. It's one of the things I noticed is you're sort of DMing for entertainment of chat, rather than just DMing a simulator. So you do definitely have to
Yeah, for this one, I'm hoping that the players, because what kind of inspired me on this was Vermintide 2, because it's one of my favorite collab games, because it's a thing that not only do we get to play, chat gets to interact by trying to fuck us over.
Oh yeah.
By summoning bosses when we're already fighting a boss. So it's stuff like that where I'm like, this, because I tried playing Vermintide without Twitch integration, completely different game, completely different feel. It was a lot easier.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I'm like, I liked the challenge of them either trying to help us or not. And so I'm like, I want to apply this to D&D.
I can.
So like, it's not like the classic, like, oh, okay, the room full of skeletons, cool, sure, whatever, let's get through those. And then all of a sudden, you know, chat bombards them with like, oh, reinforcements are here, and add like another 10 skeletons. And they're just like, oh, now we have to completely change how we're handling this.
Yeah, chat would never be mean to them, of course. They would only want to help.
They would obviously only want to help.
Yeah, I'd never known chat to do such evil deeds like that. But yeah, so you've got the D&D aspect sorted. You got a lot of plans for that. Is there any other sort of future stuff?
So the one thing I've seen about the VTubing community is a lot of the VTubing community are artists of some sort. They do digital art, they can draw it, and I've been trying to learn a lot of that so I could expand my portfolio as a VTuber and as a streamer. But most of my experience in like the artist realm has been physical media. So sculpting and, you know, prop making, costume making, everything like that. Nothing you really can quite do on stream as a VTuber unless there's a giant elaborate setup. So one of the things that I am thinking about trying to do is I'm trying to get back into 3D modeling. And with that, I want to do more content inside of Unreal Engine, and I want to eventually make, you know, Steaz a interactable streaming environment. Like it's my own application where I am inside of my layer streaming and people can interact with it. I used to think that be like an impossible task because I've seen people like Code Miku, AI Candy, Fofamit do these sort of things, but they're like developers or have like developing thing. And like, you know, I've read the articles about Komiku that have like this $12,000 a year subscription fee for like the tracking suit and all this, and I thought it was impossible. But I took a class recently and I'm like, it's actually not that impossible anymore, and I've recreated a few things, and I am trying to move on to trying to map out like what I want to do that's not pre-built.
Yeah. There's I feel like there's a lot of untapped ground of YouTubers, and we're just scratching the surface in what's possible.
Right, and but one of the other things I thought about doing recently, along with the D&D stuff, is what I also like doing was I 3D modeled props and printed them out. One of the first 3D models I ever did was actually from Mass Effect. It was the Mantis sniper rifle. I completely modeled it, made it to scale, and then printed it out and made it.
How was that like? Was it like hard?
There were, in the beginning it was, but most of the time that I have problems with these kind of programs, it's learning the toolbox more than the actual process. So like for me, it's like, okay, here's the new sandbox. Where are all the toys and what do they do?
Yeah.
Once you have a basic on that, then you're like, okay, I know how to make this thing now. And I went, and I think my original gun, like the 1.0 version, took me 6 hours to do.
It's not too bad.
And then when I did the 2.0 one, it only took me like 3. And a lot of this was refining the blueprinting process of making sure everything is to scale.
Makes sense. I guess it's like you know the theory about how to create it. You just got to learn how to do it in the program, if that makes sense.
Right. Which is the same thing with what stopped me with the environment in Unreal. I actually bought I buy a lot of those online classes, and there was a sale for one that was Unreal for like $20. I bought it. I went through it. It taught you how to make a zombie survival game. And I'm like, I got through about 2/3 of it before I started getting more into the video game aspect than what I was wanting. And I stopped it. But like getting to that process, you're like, oh, a lot of this doesn't require programming.
Yeah.
Now, there's some stuff that if I wanted to do custom, like Twitch integration, it requires a little bit of programming, but I've had some experience with that in school.
There you
So
go.
I understand what's going on, just not exactly how to link the two.
I think that's one of the good thing about modern game engines is that a lot of it is you don't have to write out lines of code just to do something simple. It just has a feature for it. I'm hoping they come out with something for like much easier Twitch integration, but definitely sure you can do stuff with it.
Yeah, because with that one, you need the Twitch API, which is like what helps you talk with Twitch. Because there's another VTuber who's named Professor Tiberius.
I think I've heard of them.
They're an actual professor.
Ah.
But they're also a Pokemon professor, as is a VTuber model. It has been doing development streams, and when I originally talked about what I want to do for D&D, he's like, if you need help, let me know. I'm already messing with the Twitch API and how all this works. And so eventually I'm like, I may need to team up with you and build my own system, but I'm doing the system I have now for D&D because it's already plug and go. Because eventually what I'm going to need is I'm going to need databases to hold information of every player, and then and eventually probably everyone in chat if they want to participate.
Oh yeah, and then keeping all that information and all that stuff. That's gonna be a lot of information. But I guess it's good. I guess you just gotta keep it simple at first and then build on top of it as you go.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do now, which is why I'm using the system that I am. The reason why I don't like this system is because it requires money to do. But part of my conceptualization of this was that if I wanted to do it solely for channel points, people who have been in the channel the longest are going to have a major advantage over new people. And people who join, let's say a big raid happens, and people want to interact with this. And I use channel points, like let's say I use 100 channel points for a pack of cards. Problem with that is the people who are there the longest, who have 20,000-30,000 channel points, can just spam it and overwhelm basically whatever happens. But the equalizer would be if I spend you have to spend $1. You have to spend one actual dollar on a card pack. Everyone's on equal ground.
Yeah. That's pretty smart. I guess the other method would just be, I don't know if you can limit redeems per person or not.
You can, and one of the other options that I'm trying to, which I may talk to Tiberius, I want a bot because I can set the price for the cards, which is why I'm making them super cheap. I don't want you spending a lot of money on this. I just want it to be enough of a barrier to be like, it can't be spammed.
Yeah, you can't just have a bot.
Because after watching a few streams the past few days, there are some people who are secret oil barons that just drop a shit ton of money in the chat. They can pretty much dictate whatever happens in that episode, and I want to limit that.
Yeah. Especially in role-playing situations.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna be hard, but I look forward to seeing how it goes.
Yeah, hopefully I can get it all set up and done for next month.
Next month?
Yeah, next month.
Okay, well I guess we don't have long to wait to see how it goes.
No.
But yeah, it's pretty good. So you mentioned earlier about your resurrection. You had a whole stuff with your channel change. What's all the different things that changed, and how did that go?
Pretty much everything changed, which is why it was so brand new overlays done by Moonbitch. I had an animated starting screen. I had a customized intro song. I had new stingers. I had my big model update, which was a lot different. Where I'm actually using blend shapes now instead of just the regular movement of just my it was voice activated.
Yeah. The blend shapes are a godsend for 3D models.
Oh yeah, it's just so much more expressive, and it was one of the things I liked about 3D models.
Yeah, that's definitely the advantage they have if you have a blend shape model.
And also from there, I just had a bunch of art. I also introduced Dulla, who is my TTS assistant.
Oh.
He was a Goblin Dullahan. He currently doesn't know where her body is, so she's just a floating head.
Well, I guess that gives you a bit more freedom in some ways, but keep the head
A little bit,
around.
but she's a little bit. Pun not intended, but she's a little bit of an airhead.
Ah, okay. Well, I'm sure she helps a lot with the TTS. Keeping.
So, yeah, that was the big thing, and I got a really big reception out of that one. A lot of people are liking what I did with it, and I couldn't have been happier with working with Moon on any of that.
There you go. Thank you, Moon, if you're here lurking. Yeah, I've got myself confused now between my notes. I've wiggled in between them a lot. But one thing I think we were almost started discussing before stream is, so you are a Lich Goblin.
Yes.
So I guess we should start by going with, how do you define Lich?
Lich is, so the misconception with Liches is that they need to be necromancers in order to become a Lich, and that is actually not the case. I see a Lich as an undead spellcaster that has their sentience. Because there can be skeletal mages, but they don't have sentience. They follow orders. They're like programmed robots.
Makes sense.
So because anyone that has access to magic can become a Lich, and there's even some instances where they have no magic and can become a Lich. It is just a ritual in order to obtain becoming undead.
So yeah, I guess it's a variety of undead spellcaster. But as we were mentioning earlier, they're not always necromancers.
No, because even though I don't like them and they're the bane of my existence, there are good aligned Liches. They're not called Liches though; they are called Archons.
Okay.
And they are undead wizards that have obtained Lichdom, because that's what but they don't want to be called Liches, in order to pursue a greater good that would have extended past their own lifespan.
It's pretty good, I guess.
Yeah, and the only reason why people get the misconception of with Liches being necromancers is because of modern media, because if you're undead, then obviously you want to command undead, and it's like a power thing. But there are many Liches that are they actually specialize in like ice or fire magic or illusions or different things like that. It's just necromancy is the school that you become a Lich. And so you kind of have to specialize a little bit in order to become it.
It's the problem with the media and portraying stereotypes is hitting everyone these days, even Liches.
Even like no one can escape. I may be evil, but I'm not a monster.
So yeah. So what? I've in my notes I literally just have one thing. It's his character lore, which should we delve into that?
I can talk about it, but it's a very long story, and it's still a little bit of to be continued.
That's fine. You can give as much or as little information as you like, but
most people don't want to know the entire story of Steaz, who was I am actually a divination wizard.
Oh.
So as you can see, I was not beginning to be a necromancer. I just required it in order to get where I was going.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to spec into another tree for a little bit.
So what I had to do, most people want to know, is like, how did you become a Lich? And really, it was fairly simple. It required a sacrifice of a mayor, his adult daughter, 2 of my party members, and a deal with the devil. It was pretty simple to me.
Just things you got laying around the house, really.
Yeah, things you just got laying around. I had to sacrifice 2 party members for a unicorn horn.
Wow. How did they feel about that?
We're still talking about that.
Okay. What, with like Speak with Dead or something?
No, they came back.
Okay.
they're fine.
Okay, and you still got the unicorn horn.
I still got the yes. I had to use the unicorn horn for the potion.
Ah, okay.
But the unfortunate was the person who was helping me didn't let us know that the trial we were going through, which I sacrificed them, was a dream.
Oh.
And so when we woke up, it was a very awkward conversation.
Ah, okay. So, yeah, that would make
it put a little bit of damper on there, but now that I am a lich. If they do die, don't worry, they're not going to be dead for long.
Yeah,
that seemed to comfort one of them.
Well, I guess you can always talk it out later, and then at some point between then, did you build a dungeon, find a dungeon?
Oh, I stole it.
Oh,
it was another necromancer's, and I defeated him.
Mm-hmm. Like hermit crabs.
Yeah, exactly. It's just I go through like there's you can put a lich into the goblin. You can't take the goblin out of the lich.
Mm-hmm.
I found it. And so this is mine now. I made this.
Okay.
So
redecorated.
Yeah, I just under new management. So that is where I am currently residing.
Makes sense.
And then I've had other places. So if you don't know Gob the Cookie Mancer, he actually took my old wizard tower.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess if it was on the market, then.
Yeah, it was on the market. Like, don't tell him this, but like I was looking to get rid of that for a while, and I'm like, oh yeah, here's a gift.
Yeah, it's so bad of me to give it away, but I suppose if I must, sort of.
If I have to.
Yeah. Just don't let them know it. But yeah. Well, I'm more used to going into dungeons to get the loot, but I'll mark yours on a map and.
Oh, please do. I haven't had adventurers come in so long. I'm getting bored.
I'm not sending my adventurers to perish, I'm afraid. Maybe if they're high enough level.
I've had to resort to bribing the nearby villages for like the quest givers. I'm the one putting in the thing to go investigate this way. Like I'm having to pay for them to show up.
Ah. So that this quest was given by a Sreez?
Yes, by SteazHornsby. Yeah, that's right.
Maybe one day. But yeah, you thinking of expanding your dungeons, adding some traps in?
I am. So mine, I actually did. It was funny enough. During I think it was my birthday stream that I did actually a PNG drop of where will you be in my lair, and I actually have 5 different layers of my lair.
So you got 5 different sections of the lair?
Levels. Okay, I would say it's you start off in which is why I went after this one at the beginning, where they had a nice labyrinth, and I can put things in that labyrinth, and that's normally fun. And then the second one is an underground forest.
Always
and then
interesting one.
Yeah, I always loved the underground forest. There were a couple drow in there, but like I made deals with them, and they were fine with it.
Okay, yeah,
and then underneath there's the necropolis, which is where I get most of my resources, and I house some things inside of there. And then there's my inner sanctum, which no one's really gotten to yet.
Well, maybe one day they'll get in. They'll surprise you while you're, I don't know, having dinner.
Can you imagine? And then listen, if they can get to that level, they're going to be very useful.
Well, there you go. I've always wondered how underground forests work. Are they undead trees, or do they just not need sunlight?
They don't need that. I was weird enough. They don't need sunlight, but the water that's in there is what mainly keeps them sustained. Because it's a bit of a reservoir in there that comes from like a nearby lake on top, and it kind of goes down.
A water feature.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. You know, a dungeon is good when the dungeon has a dungeon. So you gotta add that extra layer. But yeah, do you have any classic traps in there?
I saw this one movie once called Indiana Jones, and I loved the boulder. I had that one's one of my favorites that I put inside of the labyrinth. What they don't know is there's actually 2 skeletons inside the boulder that actually guide it.
Ah.
So it can turn corners.
It's even smarter. There you go. A remix on a classic plan, I suppose.
Yeah, I like, so there's these like villains that I would see show up on the television on like Saturday mornings, and I took a lot of inspiration from them.
What sort of Saturday morning cartoons?
There was, it looked to be like an old one of from Moose and Squirrel, and then there was one named oh god, what was his name? It's always the villains that have the good mustaches that I go after.
Oh yeah.
They always seem to have like the good ones.
The dastardly.
Dastardly. That's right. That I think that was his name. So I like doing. We don't have Dynamite, but I do have Pitfalls.
Oh,
that's a good one.
Another classic. You push them along with the boulder into the pitfall. That's you can't go wrong.
No, you can't go wrong. But if they do, like if they can outsmart that, then normally they're worthy enough to go down to the forest.
Ah, and then there's a whole new.
Yeah, there's a whole new kind of stuff down there.
Put some Ewoks in there. See what happens.
Oh, listen, like I said before, I may be evil, but I'm not a monster.
You don't want them seeing the glowing eyes.
the glowing eyes, the little horns that blow. No, I'm not. Even I don't want to deal with them.
Just they finally get away from the dragon. They just hear yub nub from behind.
Fucking drums.
A whole new layer of hell. But yeah, apparently, I don't know if this is still canon or not, but apparently Ewoks are called like tiny Wookiees because they are like super strong.
I could see that. They look like they'd be like strong like alligators. Like you don't think alligators are that strong, but they can go.
It's like a spring ready to go. You just don't see it.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. In order to like to deal with some of those, I mean, you've seen them like push those logs and like smash the walkers. They had to have some strength in order to do that.
Oh yeah. I've also heard that the trees on Endor are meant to be like super dense or something, but I think that was just a way to explain how a walker just got crushed by
crushed like a soda can. Yeah, I can see that.
There's that argument online of them being like, well, Star Wars is much better than 40k because they have shields involved, and then they just post that of it being crushed by trees. And I know that's not canon, even though it's literally from the film.
Well, okay, so if we're gonna go down that route, the whole thing with shields in the Star Wars universe is it's one of those classic things of people are like, oh, how did the Empire fall to a bunch of Ewoks when there's actually a real life equivalent of this happening in history? I think it was like the Roman Empire versus some other culture.
Oh.
Where the Roman Empire was so advanced that there's kind of like a whole circle around where primitive technology is effective against high technology. So one of the things that I would like, for instance, in the Star Wars one, they're like, oh, well, they have shields and like get crushed by the logs, is the fact that most weapon-based in their civilization, they only really come across as energy-based weapons. So the shields are only against energy and not physicalized like projectiles.
Yeah. I can see that. Hello, Alessan, welcome. But yeah, I also like to think because there's like shields and ray shields. Ray shields are more for physical stuff, right? And then
that's what I see for those are like hard walls versus something that disperses energy.
Makes sense. Mel, also, I guess you could just say that the ATST was made by the lowest bidder, so
that is having worked with the government and like the military, that tracks.
How else are they gonna get like, what is it, about millions and millions of TIE fighters if they're just gonna
I actually heard that too, like our guns would be pretty effective against stormtroopers. Exactly.
Yeah,
their armor is more like ceramic and to displace energy, because that's what normally kills them. Is in Star Wars the energy blast would hit you, and what it would do is it would fry your nervous system, and that's how you would actually die, not from the actual burn.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And so like us having projectiles, which is what, like, again, the Mandalorian slug throwers. That's why they were good against Jedi, was because it shot a bullet, and as soon as they blocked it with their blade, it sent like molten shrapnel up at them.
bit dangerous, but yeah, I think the Tusken Raiders also had slug throwers.
I mean, you know, you bring up Tuskens, and then like the whole thing about the Book of Boba kind of also proves that with the gaffy stick.
Yeah, I mean they like their trees, which they somehow found on Tatooine. I guess that's what makes the gaffy sticks a bit more important, is the whole finding a tree situation.
Right.
But then again, Star Wars is just science fantasy, so
it's not supposed to be sci-fi. Anyone who says it's sci-fi is like, it's not sci-fi, it's fantasy. It's space wizards.
Yeah, we need more of that, I feel. I do like other sci-fi, but sometimes I just want to see spaceships blow stuff up.
I just want to see big ships, big battles, and then make funny noises.
I don't care about if there's sound in space or not. Just give me the cool big gun noise.
I mean, space wizards. That's what we're getting with Spelljammer. Is we're getting space wizards.
Wait,
Do you know about Space Jammer?
I've heard it a few times.
Magic, or is it Spelljammer? No, Spelljammer, not Space Jammer. Spelljammer. It's a so you know in D&D right now that most of 5th edition is within the Sword Coast or Faerun.
Yeah.
Spelljammer is the space equivalent, where we are dealing with spaceships and magic in space. And this is where the Illithids, or Mind Flayers, in the Githyanki come from. Because Mind Flayers are actually aliens.
Yeah, I remember that bit.
So that's what I'm excited about, because we're going to be seeing a lot of more D&D Star Wars adventures, and people are going to be reflavoring that one.
I look forward to that, actually. I guess it's D&D's equivalent of Starfinder. Or is Starfinder...
No, Starfinder is Spelljammer. Like, Spelljammer has been a very old setting for them.
They just did it first.
Yeah, they did it first along with Dragonlance, and I don't know too much about Dragonlance, but it seems like everyone has a very fond place in their heart for it.
Who would win? A Jedi?
First thing coming to mind is 40k.
40k is I want to love 40k, but the more you go into the lore, the more crazy it gets.
I have been trying to learn the lore in my own time, because TikTok has exposed me to some of the lore. Like, as soon as they talked about the orcs, I'm like, this is insane. I need to know more.
Space goblins.
And I like, the space goblin. I need to know more, because it's the ridiculousness that gets me. I like I love the wackiness of like campaigns and stuff. I like to try to not take myself too seriously on this.
Yeah.
Because I've seen what that does. And it just makes it not fun. Everyone wants to do the thing. And just when someone said, "Oh yeah, space orcs open the window in space to let the breeze in," and then a breeze actually happens, I'm like, this is ridiculous. I love it.
Don't they technically have like some magic power where the stuff they build just works simply because they believe it works?
Yes, it does.
Oh.
And that is, so the lore that I realized on that is the orcs are an actual de-evolution of a race that was created by like some super beings way back when. And they were the original orcs were supposed to be like god killers.
Oh.
And they had like psionic powers that just warped reality. And eventually down the line they kept getting stupider and stupider and stupider, not fully able to grasp their own power. Got to the point where whatever they believe in, and the more people that believe in it, it becomes true. Because what was it? One of the Ultramarine tech priests, I think, took one of their guns, and took it apart. And inside the magazine were not bullets, but acorns, and it was just a bunch of metal and wood bolted together. and as soon as it left the orc's presence, it revolved back into like, this is not a gun. It just does not work. So it is a complete belief system. Like their psionic belief is what's manifesting this, and that's such a cool idea for me. It's so wacky. It's the same thing of like anything that's painted purple is invisible.
Is that why you have a purple cloak? Is it like a cloak of invisibility?
A little bit. Listen, it doesn't work, but I gave it a chance.
You just gotta believe, you know. Hello,
my favorite...
Menace. Hello.
Hello, Menace. One of the classic stories that what got me into all this was there were Ultramarines that were in a bunker and they were surrounded by orcs, and they ran out of ammunition. So what the Ultramarines had an idea, and the commander just like run out there and just start screaming "Daka," which is what the noise of the gun makes.
Yeah.
So they run out there, and all of the Marines just start screaming that, like they're shooting their gun. And the orcs start dying because they believe that they're getting shot out and hit. They flat out die.
Wow. These orcs are crazy.
So as soon as I heard that, I'm like, there's no way that's real.
Well, you just gotta harness that power of belief, you know. You gotta become one of those what do you call it? The people that like make vision boards. Maybe orcs.
Oh yeah, the orcs just run off of giant vision boards.
Yeah, that's how it works.
They're trying to manifest their success.
Yeah, that's how it works. Another thing I like about them is they're technically fungus. They're like fungus beings.
Yeah.
So
I learned that recently. Like they're a fungus species. That's like if one dies, they spread spores that build hundreds.
Yeah. So killing them is just like not worth. I don't know if like fire killing them negates that or not, but.
So what I learned with that is that's why they consider orcs an extinction. Like they have levels of threats, and they say that orcs are a extinction level threat because if one shows up on a planet, it will spread. And one of the only ways that they remove it is by nuking the planet to glass. And I forgot what it was like exterminatus.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, they completely just burn it. They're like, they would rather lose the planet than have the orcs spread like that.
It's dumb. I mean, you could just lock him up, I guess, but you know what the Empire's like, so.
Oh yeah, that. For all we know, that he just believes that he can get out, and he just gets out.
Oh my god. So you just got to get a lawyer and defeat orcs.
Oh yeah. You have to be a way to convince them not to do it.
or just edit their vision boards, I suppose. That'll work.
I have burned your vision board. You have to retreat now.
You have no vision. You lack vision. I'm trying to think what other crazy stuff there is in 40k, because I'm British, so it's like the law that all young British teens have to have a Games Workshop phase. It's the law. You just have to.
And not a Judge Dredd phase?
Not anymore, I don't think. I think that was more.
Judge Dredd.
I really want to get into Judge Dredd. I've seen the newer film, which is really good.
Yeah, I deeply love that film. I actually have memorabilia from that film.
Oh man.
I have. So, like I said before, a lot of the stuff that I do before VTubing was a lot of costumes and memorabilia. One of them is I have screen-casted equipment from that movie.
Oh, shit.
Like, my helmet, my Judge helmet that I do have, is from the same mold they use for Carl Urban's helmet in the movie. It is the same mold.
I guess because it was an indie film, it's a lot easier to get access.
Yeah, it was an indie film, and there was a guy that was trying so hard to buy the molds from the production company. They finally did it. They finally sold it to him, and as soon as that happened, I threw money at him and said, "Just give me a helmet."
Give me the helmet. Ow! Thank you. But yeah, with Game Workshop, yeah, as a kid, you have to
The mighty
Have a
Ellison
phase.
gifted a tier 1 sub to
Is
Frog
Games
Cass.
Workshop a British company?
It is. There is a
I
place
didn't know that.
called Warhammer World. Or the shops aren't called Games Workshop anymore. They're just called Warhammer, which is a stupid name. But we don't talk about modern day Games Workshop. But there's
yeah. I've peeked into that debacle. It's dumb. It's really dumb.
They have a place called Warhammer World, which is like their main head office with a whole bunch of. I've never actually been, even though it's quite close to me, which may dox me, but it's Britain. That's like close as you're gonna get. But yeah, it's like they have a fantasy inn there. They have like a whole bunch of stuff. A local store exchange. Yeah, I don't know why they changed the name. They're going through a whole rebrand. I think they're getting afraid of 3D printing. Understandably.
Oh, So I know a lot about 3D printing. I was a very early adopter.
Mm-hmm.
I had a 3D printer about 10 years ago, when they were just first coming out. That was one of the first major
Greetings, ally.
things that was talked about. That Game Workshop went on a crusade against like websites that had anything Warhammer on it.
Yeah.
And like they won against stuff that they probably shouldn't have. Like people made their own custom models.
Yeah.
That they were not because they were worried about people copying models or redoing existing models, but people were doing their own stuff.
Yeah.
And they were going after them too. And oddly enough, the other people that were really worried about 3D printers were appliance companies.
Oh, yeah.
Because if a wheel on your dishwasher breaks, just print another one.
It's something that I think is just companies are gonna have to adapt to it or die, I guess.
I would be lying if I didn't think about trying to model my own like Steaz Warhammer mini.
Why haven't you?
I just haven't touched 3D modeling in so long. I need to like reacquire all the skills that I had.
It makes sense. I think my friend has a 3D printer. But I had this plan a while back that I think if Games Workshop want to survive, they should either have a whole bunch of 3D printers in their store, where people can go in and just buy whatever, or they just sell the files online. I mean, yeah, people are still going to pirate them, but at least you have some aspect on that market.
Right.
But I don't know. I think that's probably why they're focusing on other stuff like games and rule books at the moment, because they know that model-wise they're gonna lose you out on that.
Yeah, especially the way that they're acting now, like the from the looks like the community is not supporting them in like their decision on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even people that I've talked to about like, oh, if you're going to get a Warhammer, remember, don't buy the minis, pirate them. And I'm like, whoa, really? They're like, oh yeah, no, they lost their mind at this point. Like a lot of them were people that were very for like, no, don't do that. Buy the official one, support the brand. And then they did what they did. They're like, you know what? Screw the brand.
Yeah.
Go have fun anyway. Like it's another one of the things I found out. They went after Tabletop Simulator.
What?
Because people were playing Warhammer with 3D models from Tabletop Simulator, and any places that they had the 3D models, they got taken down. And you have to go like back alleys of the internet to get those models to put back in.
Oh damn. I mean, from a lore perspective, I know that you have to like constantly protect your copyright and stuff, otherwise you lose it. But also that's like not even competition, I guess.
So if we want to talk about that, there is a good way to do this, and it's literally just let them do it. If they like it enough and you're not like an ass about it, they will buy your stuff. They would want like, okay, yeah, like because at a point you're like, I could do this by myself, or I could just go buy it. And if they're not, because it's the same thing with Lucasfilm. So I was part of an organization called the 501st.
Oh yeah.
Which was the official Star Wars unofficial Star Wars costuming group of stormtroopers or the bad guys doing good. It's a charity organization. We have like 50, we're probably more than this, but last time I checked, it was like 15,000 members.
Oh yeah, they've got like not chapters, but they got like units around the world, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, what we do is considered against copyright.
Mm-hmm.
But Lucasfilm turns a blind eye to it because we are good publicity.
Yeah,
and they use us. So it's just, they could do the same thing. Like, okay, yeah, what you're doing is technically against our copyrights, but like there's ways of doing it. They're just going the greedy route is the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. I'm glad Disney didn't change their mind on the whole 501st stuff when they bought Star Wars.
I could tell you horror stories about like behind the scenes
Uh-oh.
about like stuff that's been going on, but like I'm glad that Disney. No, that was the when they did the Disney acquisition, I was part of as you said units, but for me it was Garrison. So
yeah, that's the word.
Squads.
Yeah.
I was part of Garrison Command. I was actually their PR person.
That would
and I had to get on a call with Kathleen Kennedy and a bunch of the other Garrison PR people. There was like 50 of us in this call, and they were talking about the acquisition and like, hey, nothing's changing. Disney did buy us out, but they want to let you know, keep doing the good work, and if you got any problems of what's going on, now's the time to ask them. And they're like, it was the uncertainty because there was the rumor that Disney was going to shut us down.
Oh yeah, because they did shut down a lot of stuff when they bought out.
Yeah, they put an axe to a lot of groups.
I'll never forgive them.
But they left us alone.
13.
I can talk about 1313. outside that demo, nothing was done.
Oh yeah,
that was the problem, and like nothing continued to get done after that. I had a friend that worked at BioWare that was pretty high up, and they worked on Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Yeah.
And they were talking about like, I had some friends in that company, and like there was nothing outside of that demo. Like there was not a lot of work done.
I can believe that. I mean, there was a video that got released of like test animations for stuff a few months ago. Was it a few months or years?
Yeah, I remember that, and I think that one was actually for like either a Boba Fett or a Jango Fett game, because I remember it was a Mandalorian.
Was that not what 1313 was? I thought that was just.
I don't think the dude was a Mandalorian.
Is he not?
I think he was I think he was just like a rogue. Like,
I thought the idea
like
was that you were playing as Boba Fett, and that was 1313, like young Boba Fett.
That, I mean, could be. There could be. I stopped following it after it got canceled.
Understandable, yeah.
Like, I'm not getting my hopes up anymore.
Well, and then we almost got another Star Wars Uncharted, but that one got cancelled by EA, so...
Yeah, but that's EA. They cancel anything that's good or make money.
What's this? Get rid of it.
They're like the Fox of like gaming companies. Oh wow, this thing is doing great and has a cult following. Nah, get rid of it.
Was it Firefly?
Yeah, Firefly is one of them, and then they're like, what was it? I think they did Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh
recently. Yeah. Then like two other companies were like, fine, we'll take that.
I wish that could happen with Star Wars.
Like, yeah. I mean, I like where they're going with Star Wars. I was on the I hate Kathleen Kennedy train for a long time. And then I started reading more and more into it, and it was not entirely her fault like I thought it was. Especially with the new movies, the stuff that I was learning about through the grapevine of like official people was a lot of it was marketing rights and toys that was causing problems. But we got The Last Jedi the way it was because when George Lucas sold the rights to Star Wars, he did not release fully the character rights. So they can make all the Star Wars they want, but anything that was like a part of the original trilogy was still his, like character-wise. So if you look back in The Last Jedi and everything, that's why R2-D2 was under a cover
Yeah.
That's why Han Solo acted a lot differently. That's why Luke acted a lot differently, because technically, if there was like the rule of 70%, if the character is considered 70%, it's over 70% different, then it could be considered a different character.
I guess he got lucky with Chewbacca then.
Yeah, with Chewbacca, yeah, because mainly with those, it was, it was also why C-3PO had a red arm.
I heard a different story.
I'd like to hear what that story was, but I heard that the red arm is because it made him more than 70% different.
I can believe
or
that.
It wasn't 70% the same character.
Yeah, I heard it was Kojima was friends with some guy working on the film, and then that's why Snake had a red arm in Metal Gear Solid 5, and why C-3PO had a red arm. So maybe both stories are true.
That sounds like something that both, like, we need a thing to make him different. Red arm.
I think the lore-wise is that he was on a droid mission and one of them died, so he just took his arm.
Oh yeah, it was something like that. And that's why we got Luke that was so much different than the Luke. Even like Mark Hamill said, yeah, this Luke is not my Luke. I'm like, yeah, because they want to sell. It's also one of the reasons why, if you look at the original trilogy, oh, sorry, not the original trilogy, the new trilogy, and look at all the toys.
Yeah.
Why are there no Luke Skywalker, Leia, and Han toys out?
It makes sense now. It makes sense.
It was way more like. They oversold the Flame Troopers, and they were just in the first 5 minutes of Force Awakens, but they were on all the promotional stuff.
Yeah,
because they didn't have to pay the royalties to George Lucas.
Yeah, maybe they should have just done a completely new story, but
I felt like they needed to finish it, and yeah, that's the part that I remembered about on why we got what we got was because of marketing.
Yeah, I can fully understand that the Star Wars toy situation is
yeah, because with that, like, because I know they told like J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson, when they did the films, they were like, you need X amount of new troopers, X amount of vehicles, X amount of new stuff, so we can sell the toys to them.
Makes sense.
And like once you get into that aspect, it becomes like you're having so many check boxes that they're story wise, there's not a lot you can do without meeting your quotas.
Yeah, it's. I just don't understand why they didn't just make a completely new thing. Why did they try to stick with the old? But
they couldn't risk it.
I guess so. It makes sense.
You have to realize that was before any new Star Wars. They spent $4 billion on it. Which is why in A Force Awakens they basically retold A New Hope or Empire Strikes, or whatever episode they wanted to say that blew up the Death Star. It was a safe bet. They needed a foundation that got the people excited.
It makes sense. Yeah, it was a very safe film. Is that why? How does that come in with ships and stuff? Because I know it affects characters.
The weird thing with like ships and vehicles in movies is if it's a named thing, it becomes its own character, which was why there was a weird lawsuit against Carrie. Or when it wasn't Carrie, what was there was like an old movie where a car came to life. It was like a Stephen King film.
I don't know what it's called.
I think the name was like Lucille or something like that.
Yeah.
There was a guy who was rebuilding a Lucille, like 1-to-1. It was on a car channel, and the company that owns the rights to Lucille seized the car. Like totally, just like they're like, yeah, you can't do anything. You can't do this because it's technically a person in the eyes of a law because it's a named character. So that's the same thing with the Millennium Falcon. So it had to undergo the same treatment as like the 70%, which is why we see like a new radar dish on the Millennium Falcon, because it's different. It's a different character.
Yeah, I mean,
a different part of it was different.
They technically got away with it lore-wise because it does come off in Episode 6, but.
Well, there was it comes up on episode 6. But there were different reasons for it doing that, and like the insights were different a little bit. It made it a new character. But like, you know, Luke's X-wing, you don't have to worry about that because it's not named. It's just Luke's X-wing.
Ah, okay. That is interesting then. So I'm trying to think of what other ships. I'm guessing what we now have to call Boba Fett's starship.
Yes. Well, yeah, that one. Yeah, it's no longer Slave One. And that one, I can attribute that it's probably a little bit that reason, but more of the problematic name.
Yeah,
it was like that was going to happen whether or not it had to do with character rights.
Yeah. I'm not blaming him necessarily for that one, but I'm just
that one I'm like, okay, yeah. Being in like the 501st, you get to meet like the people who are super hardcore fans of Vader and Boba. I would rather deal with Vader fans than Boba fans.
Before the Book of Boba, I was heavily on the camp of he's the most overhyped character in Star Wars.
Yeah. I agree. He appeared like 5 minutes in the film overall, and like he looked cool.
That's it. Like, he didn't do anything of note.
Yeah, like because like within the 501st, I never want to build a Boba Fett. One, it's the most expensive costume. You think Vader's expensive? I've had people who spend over 10 grand on their Boba Fett costumes.
Oh shit!
Because Boba Fett fans treasure accuracy over all else. They will, if you post a picture of your paint job and you're missing a few like hairline scratches above the brow, you will get like 100-page comment section saying how you screwed up and how you need to get out of the hobby. Like, it's really bad.
There's not enough flakes missing from the dent in the helmet.
You joke about that, but I have seen it.
What is it about Boba Fett fans? I want to know how they feel about the new show, actually.
Oh, they hated it. They hated how Boba was like done. They feel like he wasn't too badass enough. They don't like. They called him Boba Fett, and I'm like, don't you fucking dare call him that. Like, the actor is a treasure, and you should be honored that he wanted to come back, because we've already lost plenty enough Star Wars actors because of how they act.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't consider myself part of the fandom. I enjoy Star Wars in my bubble.
Yeah. I think that goes for most fandoms, to be honest. You have to. Otherwise, you come across people that believe in grey Jedis. So.
Grey Jedis, can't imagine.
I'm never gonna let Puffle down for that.
Oh no, I was arguing with her in that yesterday.
Yeah,
they can't exist. For them to be grey would mean they would not be a Jedi.
Yeah. There's
just in a definition sense.
It's like, but then you have to go into the whole like being a Jedi is technically different from being a part of the Jedi Order, but there's arguments everywhere for all sorts of stuff.
Like my argument on that one is you have to, in order to be a Jedi, you have to be part of the Jedi Order.
But Luke
technically is part of the Jedi Order. He is the Jedi Grandmaster.
Yeah, but
given the title through probably Obi-Wan and Yoda. Like he said himself, like, hey, yeah, I am the Jedi. I am the last Jedi, because like they did teach him. He can technically take on the mantle. Because it's a school, it's a philosophy of the light side of the Force. It is a school of teaching, and he was taught.
I guess
you can be a light side user and not be a Jedi, just the same you can be a dark side user and not a Sith. That's why the Inquisitors are not Sith. They are just dark side users, because the Sith is a style of teaching.
I can see that, actually. So what would you count Ahsoka as?
She's a light side user. That's all she is.
Okay.
She's not a great Jedi as much as people want her to be. I actually like the theory that she's the new embodiment of the light side of the Force.
Yeah, I can
because of the sister. I like that theory just because I like Ahsoka though. It's just
Yeah.
like I was one of those in the camp in the very beginning of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Like I hate Ahsoka. Why do they bring her into this? She's annoying. So at the end of it, I'm like, I would die for Ahsoka.
Dave Filoni's a genius. He knew what he was
Filoni is
doing.
a genius. He is too big brain for me to understand.
Why is he not in charge of Star Wars? Come on. Apparently, like he knows more facts than anyone else. Like on set.
He's George Lucas's official apprentice.
Mm.
Did you know about that? George Lucas took him under his wing and to make like you're my replacement. Like George Lucas literally went, "You're my replacement."
But why is he not in charge? Come on.
Because probably film politics.
Mm.
Because look at him and Jon Favreau. Everything they touched that's Star Wars, immaculate. Anything that they haven't touched, meh. Except for the Book of Boba, but I still think they had hands in that.
Yeah. I think Book of Boba is. I enjoyed watching it. I still have a problem with a lot of the costumes in both the shows, Mandalorian and Book of Boba. Tusken Raiders look way too clean.
I can agree with that.
Like the Mandalorian's outfit is good, and I guess the Mandalorians in general, but like, just a lot of the outfits just don't look. They just seem like, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know enough about costume design to explain it, but.
So I had to study it for the 501st. Like
Makes sense.
I was thinking about doing a Tusken at one point. But I agreed that they're a little too clean. But because Star Wars is a very used universe.
Yeah, that's like the main.
It's not
thing.
clean and polished. So I can agree on the dirt part of it, but overall, like everything that they've done, I have seen them reuse costume parts from other costumes in the original trilogy and in the prequels and in the sequels that are in these. So most of the stuff does fit within the universe because it's reused stuff.
I don't have a problem with like the design of them. I guess it's just more of like wearing them down and making them look used. I think I described to my friend, they look like most of the costumes look like cosplays rather than costumes for a set.
That also may, you know what, but I can see where you're talking about that. And I think that part is because we're at a point where the resolution of the screen and what they're filming at shows those details. Because if you look at because like it's this, like, so this is a really funny story for like costuming. We didn't know that the biker scouts had a second like half cut off shirt, so like there was like a black kind of t-shirt that went from like the bottom of the chest over and of a t-shirt, and they wore it that was actually underneath the armor until like 10 years ago when like the 4K upscaling put up, people were watching and they're like, wait, what's that? And forever we didn't know that piece of gear was there because the resolution wasn't showing it. So I think the problem is we're filming at these in like 4K settings, and we're seeing the very big details that normally would get glossed over. So it looks like that.
How do you feel about the stuff that is like, that's just the actor is wearing it for them rather than as part of the costume? Like that's what I imagine the under t-shirt may have been.
So say it again.
So you mentioned about this t-shirt. I don't know if it was specifically part of the outfit, or was it just something that...
No, it was specific because all the biker scouts had it.
Oh, okay. That would make sense.
So it was a they call it a Lancer vest now. But it was basically like a shirt that the armor would sit on top of.
Makes sense.
It wasn't like attached to it, but it would sit on top of it, and they had like straps that would hold it down. So that's the part of the thing, like, oh, we didn't know that was there because the resolution of the screen just made like it blended in with the black undersuit.
There is some crazy stuff people have been doing with the 4K stuff. I can't remember the channel's name, but there's a guy who gets ships that are like in 4 frames and are literally built of like cardboard boxes in the background. So they'll like finish off the design for them and stuff. I love those videos.
I love the ships. and like what you learn that they use in these kind of films, it's really funny. People are like, "There's no way." They're like, "Yeah, that's a toilet part." I had one of those, like the people like, "Yeah, I had one of those growing up in like in my toilet."
Oh yeah, and the Gillette shaver in episode 1.
Yes, I love that kind of stuff.
It's
like like the classic like Luke's lightsaber is a Graflex flash gun for a camera.
Yeah.
And like Obi-Wan's lightsaber was a bunch of sinking grenade parts.
I think it helps the Star Wars universe overall because it gives stuff a shape of like familiarity in a way, or like foreign familiarity, which I guess is an oxymoron saying that.
Well, no, I get what you're saying. It's like it's you're using parts that like otherwise you would just gloss over in real life, but you're like, that looks familiar, but I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, I think it helps rather than just very clean shapes or stuff like that. Although they still do that sometimes, like with the Naboo stuff. Which I'm interested to know how the Mandalorian is going to move around bounties now.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that when we were talking about the the ship and everything. I'm like, oh yeah, he's on a Naboo speeder now. How's he gonna do that?
Yeah, that as soon as I saw that part, it was like, okay, that's 100% there for Grogu. There is no other reason why that's there.
He may not be a bounty hunter anymore. Like
maybe
he was doing the bounty hunting. He was doing the bounty hunting for the Mandalorians, and now he's technically not considered a Mandalorian.
I guess so.
At least by his own definition, not by like other definition. Like he could still be a Mandalorian, but actually, he still considers himself a Mandalorian even after being outcasted. Because remember, he when he boarded the ship and he put the Darksaber in like the check-in luggage. He's like, I'm a Mandalorian. Weapons are my religion. They're like, we don't care. So like, he still considers himself a Mandalorian.
I need to go back and watch it because I've only seen Book of Boba once, but isn't it that he's removed from that sect? And in order to
he's removed from the extremists.
Maybe he's just not going to go back.
The Death Watch.
Although they did specifically tell him what he needs to do to redeem himself. So.
Oh yeah, like that was a setup for like the next season. Like they're probably going to go to Mandalore at some point. It's not going to be it's not going to be glassed over like they think it is.
Or at least they'll probably find something underneath it or something.
Oh yeah, we're probably going to get more lore on the Darksaber underneath Mandalore. Probably is what's going to happen.
The Underminers, the Mandalorians of the Underground live there.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where they go with it. It's nice to have Star Wars stories that aren't about Jedi, as much as I like the Jedi.
Yeah, that's been my one big complaint with like new Star Wars is I'm kind of sick and tired of Sith and Jedi. Because people don't realize how rare Jedi were, even within like the Republic.
Oh yeah, it's like 10,000 for an entire galaxy?
There were 10,000 Jedi at the height of the Republic, and that's what Kanan Jarrus said. Said 10,000. So I'm like, okay, let's say that this planet, like I did the actual math and like statistics on it for a planet our size. Our planet could produce maybe one Force user.
Yeah, well, that's why it's super...
Because I think I took like the ratio of like what was the recorded population of the entire Republic, and then divided it by like 10,000, and it was like in the billions.
Oh yeah.
Like one in every few billion.
But there's also there are Force users that don't like. If the Jedi don't pick up on them, then they don't become Jedi. Or like there are ones that I guess they're not strong enough in the Force. Yeah.
Yeah, and like even then, like that's like the monk in Rogue One.
Yeah.
He was obviously Force sensitive, but did not pass his Padawan training.
Yeah. I did a Jedi campaign that finished just before streaming, so I had to research all of this stuff. Did any of them die? I can't remember. But yeah, there's a lot of Jedi stuff that they don't go into. I wouldn't mind a show that like digs into the whole Jedi stuff, but I don't want just like here's just a Jedi character, and then they don't look into the Jedi stuff. It's just,
to be completely honest, the way that they handled Jedi in The Mandalorian was perfect for me.
Oh yeah.
Jedi was like in especially season 1, the one time we see a Jedi, I know, although it'd be, sorry for spoilers, but it's been out for a while. That one being Luke, and him just decimating the entire squad or whatever they want to call them of those robots. Just shows how powerful they actually were. But they are too common within the storytelling of Star Wars, where they were like, oh well, it's just a Jedi, whatever, I could be the Jedi, and then showing the juxtaposition of like what, like the Mandalorian almost fucking died dealing with one of them, and Luke just like casually takes a stroll through the garden and eliminates 12 of them.
Yeah, it's
like they need to be placed on this mythic level, which is why I like the Mandalorian, because we dealt with. I've always been wanting more, like what Book of Boba and Mandalorian doing. I want to see the underside of Star Wars. I want to see the gangs. I want to see the Hutt cartel.
The day-to-day stuff.
The day-to-day stuff. I need to see those stories, because Star Wars is about the story of the universe, not just the Jedi and a single family.
Yeah. Well, they've done the films. They have finished the films now, although we have Rey Skywalker, which I think all the major actors from the sequels have said they're not coming back. So,
I wouldn't blame them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame them for that. Though we've heard that story with Han Solo, and for the thing that we know, there's enough money to make them reconsider.
Yeah, I guess. But I think they should. There were rumors, I don't know how true they are, because there's Star Wars rumors, of they were going to make another timeline or some Force multi-timeline shenanigans.
I hate it. I hate that they're doing it. I can see where they could do that.
Is it the Rebel stuff?
Yeah, Rebels had a. It's a big spoiler, but there was a bit of time travel involved.
Yeah.
So they have in canon explained that it is possible. But for the whole like people, and this is my opinion solely. Anyone who is hoping for the separate timeline are just butthurt fans, because they're wanting to cover their ears, cover their eyes, going no, it doesn't exist, and hoping for like their Luke Skywalker running in on it with a giant lightsaber, killing everything, and like being the hero. That's what they want. They want it. Or my main thing is Star Wars fans don't know what they want.
Oh, definitely.
If you would ask people, okay, fine, how would you redo the trilogy? One of the first things they say is like, oh, well, they already did the Book of Thrones and like all those books. They're like, no, we can't do that.
Yeah,
it has to be a new thing. Can't be existing.
I think I did actually do a rewrite of them somewhere, but I gave myself rules. I had to stick with the same base story and characters.
Oh, yeah, and to be honest, I would say even The Last Jedi, on some of my biggest complaints on it, could have been easily retconned or something else.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like the biggest one that I like, keep The Last Jedi, have the same outcome. Because was I disappointed? Yeah, but what I was more disappointed in, they could have handled Leia's use of the Force better. Than Mary Poppins flying through space. They could have done something better. They could have like dropped little hints here and there of like her opening a door with the Force, or other things than just her gliding through space. Like that's just weird.
It could have just been like her right next to the door in space, and then she just, I don't know, it magically opens or something. Not just like, her Supermaning across space.
Yeah, like that could have been handled different. Holdo should have survived, because she was part of leadership that was supposed to train Poe. I believe she should have survived. I would have replaced her arc within that movie with Admiral Akbar.
Oh yeah, like I'm pretty sure everyone agrees with that.
Because they did him dirty.
Oh yeah.
They killed him off screen.
Just a name drop.
Yeah, just But here's the thing: most people didn't know he was even in the scene. They just thought he was Amon Calamari, and they didn't know that was actually Admiral Akbar until later.
Yeah, they added a lot of stuff from the old films, and then they just sort of like brushed over
put in the background.
Yeah.
So have the whole hyperspace, fuck you as Admiral Akbar. Because it was a Mon Calamari ship that they did it with.
Yeah, it was the special shields, right?
Yeah. 2, it would have been such a good send off for the character because he's been in this fight since the Clone Wars, and like even before that. Like he was fighting separatists. Like he's been in this at this point. He's been in the fight for over 40 years, and like have them have the hero's death that he wanted to. Have him turn the ship around, have him laugh while in the seat, and just say it was a trap, and then just launch it. that would have been a stand up in your seat, clapping in the theater moment.
Oh. That would have been good, but
and save Holdo because she was a brand new character. Save her for the next film, to where she is training the next leaders of the rebellion.
Yeah, like I don't know why
Holdo was a wasted character.
Why did you introduce a character just to kill him off?
Yeah, really. Yeah, like we've known that character for literally a day. Like because like the whole span of Last Jedi was like what 2 days.
Yeah.
I think it was a span over 2 days. Was the entire film like from start to beginning, and in universe it was 2 days.
And then you have to go over the whole Canto Blight stuff.
Yeah, that went on a little bit too long. Like you could have kept it in there, but it just went on for too long.
It seemed like it was there just to. I didn't know what they would do. It feels like, we can't have an entire story that's based on the ship for the entire film. We need to have a side adventure to sell some toys. Let's send these characters off.
Yeah. Let's go send them to a very well-populated, rich, toy-heavy casino.
I am never going to forgive them for tricking me into thinking there was going to be pod racing. I was so excited that everything was shaking. I was like, are they bringing back pod racing? No, it's just space horses.
Space horses. Oh, the space horses. Don't get me.
I mean,
I don't know why.
I can see them fitting in the universe. I'm just angry because I thought it was going to be pod racing. But yeah, the films are out now. They're done.
They're there. They're not going away.
Yeah.
Disney will never do a separate timeline because that would be admitting that they were wrong, and they will never do that. That's the big thing with the whole separate timeline thing. I'm like, you're butthurt. I get it.
I guess the best thing is just skipping ahead 50 years or whatever, and just doing a whole new thing.
I was excited about them doing the High Republic. I just think they could have gone back a little bit further.
Oh yeah, they'd sort of screwed him over with one line of, "You're the first one to kill him in 1,000 years." Oh, well, now we know there's no Sith.
Yeah, like, so I like 300 years in the past. I'm like, that's kind of a relatively small window for the history of a galaxy. Like, why not go like 500, 700 years? That gives you so much more room for stuff. Because if we know anything in the Star Wars universe, technology never changes within the Star Wars universe, no matter how old it is.
Well, until you read the books, and in between, what was it? In between the prequel trilogy and the normal trilogy, they discovered the technology they perfected the technology for hyperdriving small ships. Because before it was a lot rarer, and now it's common in X-Wings. So they do have technology that advances, but it's only when they pick and choose it. I would like them to go back on their technology a bit. Also, holograms get better in the films. They're specifically blue and grainy in the early ones, and then by the later ones, they're like pretty much HD. So I want them to devolve the technology at least a bit. Like, yeah, it's still going to be science fantasy, but come on, just make the technology a bit worse.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
But yeah, I was going to go into the High Republic stuff, but nothing has really grabbed me about it. so I haven't.
Yeah, same. On some of it, like I've seen the pictures. I haven't read the books, but someone talked about. I think someone else has like white crystals, or a white lightsaber. Or there was another picture that looks like they have a dark saber.
Yeah.
Where their lightsaber is very black. And part of me is like, you're supposed to leave those things alone. Ahsoka was like an exception of getting white lightsabers. The dark saber is supposed to be like the Excalibur of lightsabers.
Yeah.
You kind of leave those things alone.
I don't know. It's sort of like they look through the archives for ideas, but they don't extensively read the notes on those ideas.
Yeah, they don't read the footnotes on them. Like, should only be one.
One of the biggest minor complaints I have about the new Disney films is above Jeddah in Rogue One, they use an Imperial Star Destroyer, which I don't know if they've changed the law since, but they couldn't be in atmosphere unless they like fucking wasted fuel on keeping it there. That was a perfect opportunity to introduce a Victory Star Destroyer, but they didn't. They just went with a normal Star Destroyer. But that's the most minor problem I have with the Star Wars movies, which they could have done, but
yeah, and then some of those you get it where it's just going to be like, oh, I can see why they didn't do this, but like there's only going to be like the few people like us who like know extensively every piece of thing, and then they're like, okay, I am willing to upset that one person,
yeah,
to make it look better.
I mean, yeah, it's more intimidating, it's more a recognizable sight, it's bigger. But with Rogue One, they did seem to be specifically aiming for the fans with that one, because they included a whole bunch of references. But that's probably why I liked it, even though I think it has problems. But it also just had a capital ship battle, which I've been gagging for a while.
Oh yeah, 100%. I like big ships. I like when they get to interact.
Oh yeah, the intro to episode 3 is that's my favorite. What would you think they would hire for Star Wars fans help? What would you think? Oh yeah,
I don't think they need to. Most of the writing team for the High Republic are fans, and plus they have Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni outranks all of us.
Wait, is Dave Filoni involved in High Republic stuff? I thought he wasn't.
I think he's council, or at least the whole deal is there is a high council of story within Lucasfilm. There is a council that is held that are like the lore keepers, and they're normally not in the public eye.
Understandable. They would be harassed otherwise.
Oh yeah, I think a couple of them are like known on Twitter, and like it's nonstop. But that is their job to keep those things going, and they are fans.
I can see that, yeah. The lore keepers.
This isn't like Blizzard now, where back when Blizzard was good, they were a bunch of Blizzard fans making games that they would want to play. Now Blizzard's a bunch of programmers that show up that happen to be making games.
Yeah, I can definitely see that with Blizzard.
They must have a lot of pressure on them. Yes, they do. I forgot, if you look at, like, if you really want to see about them and like the stuff, you go look at the original announcement for the High Republic, and it shows like their room, and they talk about it. Like, a lot of them grew up with Star Wars. They read all of Star Wars. They know our gripes, and it's not that they're not doing this stuff to be malicious. There is always an external fixture of the higher ups, the suits, the ones that are there to run the business, not to run Star Wars.
Yeah, it's the creativity killers, I guess.
Yeah.
Or forcing them into doing stuff. I'm trying to think of what like we have coming for Star Wars. We've obviously got the Obi-Wan show, the Obi Kenobi.
There was the whole Vanity Fair dump.
Oh
that
yeah,
happened like last week.
Cassio Andor show.
Andor, the Acolyte.
That's Ahsoka, right?
No.
Oh, wait.
Ahsoka's getting her own show. There's a new show that they announced called The Acolyte that's 100 years before the movie, and I think it's dealing with the Sith coming into power, leading into Palpatine.
So the guy that trained Palpatine, or
we
just
don't know.
In general? Ah, okay.
We don't know. It's 100 years. Like it could be about Pelagius, about him being the Acolyte, and like him teaching from his master, and then it could end with Palpatine. But we don't know. That's what my theory. My theory is it's going to be Pelagius.
Yeah, I would put my money on that, or at least start off with someone else that leads into Pelagius, and yeah, that would make sense. We do definitely need a lot more Sith stuff.
Yeah, because now, like as it stands now, they're a boogeyman.
Yeah, it's Palpatine and a few people that get bunked off.
Yeah.
I don't really like. I like the Ruler 2 as a concept. I don't like it that it applies across the entire galaxy. I like the idea that there were other Sith that did not follow that way of teaching. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Like I'm pretty sure, because we already have the Night Sisters. Like there are other dark side entities
that
are within the universe.
I've heard the Night Sisters described as there's the good, the bad, and the magic, and the Night Sisters are magic. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. It's witchcraft. It's dark side witchcraft.
Yeah, it's definitely more on the dark side, but I'd say because it might not necessarily come from emotion, it's a third entity.
Jar. I mean, it's funny that you say that, Illusion, but I'm in the camp that Jar Jar was supposed to be a agent of Palpatine.
What, like? Does he
know
camp.
It
though?
Okay, so here's my spiel on Darth Jar Jar.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think he was a Sith? No. Do I think he was Force sensitive? Yes. Do I think that he was specifically sent to Naboo so that he could counteract what the age basically implant himself into the investigations of the Jedi? Yes. I think that Jar Jar was supposed to be an agent for Palpatine to get him into power, and he was specifically chosen and planted because that's a very Palpatine thing to do. He plays the long con for everything.
Ow! Hello.
Greetings, champion.
Waffle. Steez nuts. Oh.
Steez nuts. Got him. Oh.
I guess now is the perfect time.
Fucking got him.
Now is the perfect time to talk about Grey Jedi.
Oh, Grey Jedi. Okay, right. So they shouldn't exist. Because if they were gray, they would not also be Jedi.
That's true.
That is the first one.
There we go. That's easy. And then you have to go into the whole living force and cosmic force.
The Book of Wills, kind of like it is sentient.
Yeah, I can't remember which way around it is. I think the living force is the sentient part. That's the part that's trying to balance the good and the light and the dark. And then there's the living force, which is, midichlorians penetrating everyone, that sort of business.
I could see that. The Book of Wills is something that I haven't
Greetings,
really read
champion.
But yeah,
Grey Knight.
Thank you for the raid, Puffle. I'll give you some trumpets now. They're called Grey Knights, not Grey Jedi. I mean, well, what? Bring me up some canon on what a Grey Knight is, and I'll look into it.
Link me the Wikipedia. Link me the Wikipedia.
Don't link me your OC from Deviant.
Your OC fanfic that's also a Mandalorian and a Jedi and has 2 dark sabers. I don't need to read that one.
Thank you, Puffle. I'm a bat now. Hello.
Hello.
Spark of Zeus gifted a tier 1 sub to Poflikeki. They have given 104 gift subs in the channel.
I regret turning on TTS for alerts because it just interrupts me. I'm trying. Look, I can agree that there are like grey creatures, like the Bindu. You obviously have to bring in the Bindu.
the Bendu and the Father. Those are the only two gray entities that we know about. And they are exceedingly exceptional.
Yeah. I would say they are
Emerald Mousy gifted 3 months of Tier 1 to Turnip Tuber. They've gifted 29 months in the channel.
Thank you, Mousy. Thank you.
My stance on it, there is probably a way to walk the gray line. But so far in canon, we have no precedence of someone actively going after it, because the Bendu and the Father just are.
Yeah, they don't act, I guess. So their lack of action gives them the gray area, I guess. The best way I've heard it described as, if you're a Force user, you constantly have the dark side calling to you. Even Yoda has it.
You have the two wolves inside of you, and which one do you feed?
Yes. Like, obviously...
You have the light side and the Krang side. Which one do you feed?
The light side is obviously a much harder work. That's why people fall into the dark side, because it's temptation easy. Is always at... Yeah. So, but like you are either dedicated to the ways of the light side, or you don't follow it and you are just a dark side user. There's no in between. The only argument I would have, apart from the special beings, are people that aren't aware that they're Force sensitive and they just care about themselves. But calling them Grey Jedi are a weird step.
But here's the big problem with that one. In order for them to be considered gray or go along that path, they would have to be in an environment or a society that has some idea or notion of the Force and its teachings in order for it to happen, because this is why the Jedi kidnap children in order to raise Jedi, because in the very beginning, as a child, you can learn to, because using the Force is a muscle.
Yeah.
And if you don't use it and train it properly, it will atrophy, and you'll just lose your connection to the Force, which is what happens with people that are not found in the very beginning.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. You could be a Force user that isn't evil, but it's not it. I mean, yeah, I don't believe in that you can have good guy Sith and evil Jedi. I don't think like being light side or dark sides, but then you have to get into the whole like what is good, what is bad.
Yeah, there's that whole moral thing that's just because I would say there has been a notion of an evil Jedi. Look in the Clone Wars with that clone troop, that clone commander.
I've forgotten his name.
You know, the four arms, the general whatever. He just saw clones as like these pawns that like, oh, I don't care if they die, and he was actually actively going to go to Dooku for training. Like he was actively being quote unquote evil.
You could argue that that's a very Jedi thing to do because you shouldn't create attachments, but let's not get into that.
I think the intention of that one is whatever that was.
Yeah.
That one up. Because he was killing them on purpose.
Yeah, that's a pretty not good thing morally. But Grievous. No, it wasn't Grievous. This is a Clone Wars thing. What about the war crimes committed by the... I mean,
I'm not stopping you there. Yeah, war criminals, all of them.
Oh, there's a good video series on YouTube of war crimes committed in Star Wars. And the act of disguising yourself as the enemy comes up so much.
Yeah, they always dress up as like stormtroopers and stuff. That's a war crime.
It is a war crime, and like fake surrendering Obi-Wan does, and Anakin. Yeah, I guess war crimes don't exist in Star Wars, so.
Well, okay, so for the Clone Wars section, is it a war crime if the most people you're going after are droids? Because do you consider droids to be sentient or on the same level as clones? Because they are bionic beings.
I do have a specific stance on saying that robotic beings can't be human, but that is separate from the whole Star Wars thing. Because Star Wars has like the different levels of sentience in droids, right? Because they have like personality matrices, which we just have to accept happen because it's science fantasy, not science fiction. I've forgotten what the question was. Can you commit war crimes against robots?
Yeah, basically. because that's the opposing force, was there were droids.
That is true. I don't know. It's a difficult one.
Yeah, see, it depends on what they consider. Do they consider a robot sentient? Like, is C-3PO sentient? Could I commit a war crime against C-3PO?
Well, there are no droid rights, so I don't want to... I'm not saying you should abuse your droids, but I'm just saying there's no laws against it. Which in the Star Wars RPG you roll for like character traits and stuff, and one of the things you can roll is believes in droids' rights.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the fancy flight system's very, very good.
I think I've heard of that one before.
I quite like it as a DM because it gives you more to work with instead of just a number of pass and fail. Robots seem to possess some level of sentience. Yeah, it's a Star Wars thing that when you create a droid,
it's a part of the fantasy section, not the sci-fi section.
I can't remember how to describe it. It's like a personality matrix is created when you create a droid, and that's why they all have personalities. But there's different levels of sentience, like battle droid. What's the lowest one? I think a mouse droid.
Yeah,
and
mouse
probe droid. Gonk. Oh, when are we gonna have a proper gonk? A walking battery.
They're just doofy.
With the walking battery. You charge your phone so well. Just ask it to come over and charge your phone. But yeah, there's so much Star Wars. Oh, Star Wars. It's too good.
The can I commit a war crime against C-3PO sounds like such a good Twitter post. I'm completely honest.
Do it right now. Right. I'll retweet it.
Okay, hold on. I make this is just gonna be a yes or no one.
There is no in between. There's no gray option.
No. I'm being stiff on this. There's an absolute answer to this.
Although there is do and do not, there is no try. Droids don't have empathy. They're just soldiers. Yeah. I mean, there are obviously some droids with empathy. Like, BB-8 has empathy for that other droid. And then the one from Solo wants to free the other droids.
Yeah, I think there's levels to it.
Oh, what about the droid? I don't think it's definitely not canon anymore. I refuse to believe it's canon anymore. The droid that was force sensitive and chose to destroy himself, so R2-D2 would get picked. It is it's an interesting story.
Okay, I posted it. It's up for a day.
All right, there we go.
We're gonna settle this.
I'll post it in the chat. Everyone in chat has to answer this. Copy link to tweet. I'm interested to see how this goes. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any more like Star Wars conundrums that people have and will always be arguing for.
Yeah, because part of it is why do they have personalities? Because it makes a better story.
Yeah,
it makes more characters that you can like. That is why they have it.
Nobody wants to watch two droids walk through the desert with no personality.
Right, because they would be completely silent and they would be going one direction.
Yeah. Him kicking is one of the best things. One of the problems I always had with Star Wars. So, in Episode 2, they mentioned they have 100,000 units and many more well on the way. How are you going to fight a galaxy-wide war with just 1 million clones?
That's not a lot of clones.
I interpret it as a unit is a number of droids, clones. Whoops, now I'm a separatist. But then that brings into the account of if they were all cloned on one planet, how are they cloning all of these clones to go across the entire galaxy and one planet?
They're all coming from one location, and that's just it.
In 10 years, it takes to get one.
It took. Well, okay, hold on. I think it's less than 10 years.
Is it not? I thought it was because they age at twice the rate.
Oh no, yeah, about 10 years. So so they had a batch of clones ready to go in episode 2, which means they would have had to have put in an order 10 years prior, which was what that one Jedi Master did.
Yeah, Cypher Diaz.
Yeah, Cypher Diaz. And then, yeah, because I thought it was a lot quicker than that. Unless they, I mean, okay, so if we're talking like how long?
Like in the military, a unit is not one person. I don't think a unit is like.
So let's say that they're able to produce 1 million units, and that was their first like ready to go batch, right?
I think it was 100,000 ready to go, 1 million more well on the way. I think is the line.
Okay, so like 100,000 is not a lot for a galaxy-wide battle.
That's not enough for a real battle, considering the clones were also manning all the ships.
Yeah, but let's say at the end of the year they were able to produce 1 million for the sake of argument. Like that's what they're talking about. Like, oh yeah, the first batch of 100,000 is done. It's gonna take like 2 weeks for the next one, and like 2 weeks for the next one, and blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
The Clone War only lasted 3 years.
Yeah.
So now, that means at most there were 3 million clones in circulation.
Yeah.
And here's the other problem I have with that. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
There was an episode of Star Wars: The Clone Wars where Rex and a bunch of other clones were put on a planet, and he finds a deserter clone. And that clone had children. Not toddlers. They were like 4 or 5.
I thought the Clone Wars lasted like 5 years. Or a bit longer. Or at least that's what I've heard. Because if you're going to fit in the entire animated series, like, either they are going on adventures literally every day to fill in that time.
That's kind of what they're doing. But they said that the Clone Wars lasted from 22 to 19 BBY, which was the battle before Yavin.
I guess so, yeah. I don't know. Time works differently in space.
Yeah, time's just freaking weird in like spacing and all that in Star Wars.
I mean, traveling across they never. I don't think they brought it up yet, but apparently it takes like a month to cross the entire galaxy through hyperspace, depending on the speed of your ship, of course. Apparently, the trip from Tatooine to Alderaan in Episode 4 took like 2 weeks. I don't know how canon that is, but.
I think that's pretty canon, because it was the whole thing of, like, it wasn't a thing that, like, Luke met him that day, trained with him for, like, 3 hours, they got to the Death Star. Like, it wasn't like that. There was a bit of time that Luke did train with Obi-Wan. And that they got that attachment, and that sounds old, right? Yeah,
so the fact of traveling has to be taken into an account into the Clone Wars. I mean, I've heard the arguments that there was only 1 million clones because each clone was worth 10 normal.
Droids.
Yeah, well, yeah. And then, although apparently the official numbers of droids was that there was trillions, which does sound like how much you would need for an entire galaxy-wide war.
Yeah, exactly. It says R2-D2 and C-3PO were both decades old. I mean, so if R2-D2 was in Episode 1 and lasted until the last episode, we're talking, by the time of Return of the Jedi, Vader was 42 years old.
Yeah.
So by the time he was Anakin, was like 8 years old. So let's say, he's over 30 by the end of between 1 to 6, and then was there at the end of that. So we're saying that let's say Kylo Ren was like born was like 3 years after that. Like R2 is like 60 years, like at minimum like 60 years old as a droid. I
mean, he is a droid, but yeah. Once figured out a longer droid was around, the more stuff they'd accumulate in the program, thus giving them more personalities. I don't know. I think a little bit, like they would definitely develop more of a personality. I don't think it would necessarily give a battle droid a personality, unless you messed around with their programming. Because there's what's his name, Mr. Bones or whatever.
Yeah, when it comes to like droids and battle ones, like you're talking about like I would say protocol droids need to have that because they need to have some sort of personality in order to interact with people. But like battle droids are very straightforward, and if they're being mass produced like that, they're going to have bare minimum intelligence.
They also have so I think I watched a video on this. So in episode 1, they were all controlled from the ship.
The capital ship.
And then after that, they were like, oh, we don't want this to happen again. So they gave them some basic programming that can be controlled. So if the capital ship did go down, they would continue to do at least the last orders they got. I don't know if that would have an effect on their personality. I mean, they do definitely have a little personality for comedic relief.
Right.
I don't know. This is the hypotheticals. Where's Dave Filoni? Let me just call him up. We can...
Get him on the phone right now. Get him this call.
I'll get him in here. Dave Filoni, can you become a VTuber? Then I can interview you, please.
It's just an animated version of him as a PNG. I would die.
Oh my god, that would be good. That would be so good. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in Star Wars that doesn't make sense, and I guess like coming up with explanations for that is part of the fun of liking Star Wars. Somebody pointed out that whenever they design ships, they never design bathrooms, except for the Falcon and the latest.
Yeah.
I've forgotten the name of the ship, the Razor Crest. I don't know if that's.
Yeah.
Is the Razor Crest the name? Is the Razor Crest the name of that ship, or just that brand of ship?
That brand of ship. The Razor Crest is not a name, because they said in the they said, like, I forgot, I think it was the patrolman of the Republic. They were like, oh, that's a Razor Crest. That Razor Crest is before Empire or before Republic. So I think that was a brand of ship.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know what we do need a TV show about is the I think it's called Boss. The people that control the hyperspace computers, transponders and stuff. Because apparently even the Empire are afraid of them. So.
Oh yeah, who wouldn't be? That's like the people who like run the internet. They're like, if you do really want to go to war with the internet, can you survive and fight without the internet and its information capabilities? And has a like, because like you fuck with them, that Star Destroyer is going straight into the sun.
Yeah. Oh, what's that? You're going into hyperspace? Oh, well, I guess nobody else is.
I guess I'm rerouting you into a black hole.
Yeah. I had a group of players that. They built a ship and they did not put a transponder in it. And every time they landed on a what's it called? Oh no, it was they just plugged in a random transponder from a completely different ship into their ship. So their small little like ship, whatever, the Falcon size, their transponder said it was a giant freighter. So every time they would land in a docking bay, it'd be like, hey, your transponder's broken, go fix it. And they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. But they never did. So obviously Boss goes after them. And then they got called into the office to sort it out. And remember, this was a Jedi campaign. Their solution was to just kill him.
Okay.
So... Yeah. I wish they would bring up that and make it a bit more canon, because I think the only time we've ever heard about it is in like RPG rule books and stuff.
Yeah, at least touch on it, because I don't know how well they can do something like that as like a storytelling element. I don't know if people want to go through the bureaucracy of Star Wars.
Just make The Office, but Star Wars.
Yeah, literally. Actually, that'd be freaking hilarious.
Oh, that'd be good for like 1 or 2 episodes. You could have so much stuff, or just a throwaway part in Mandalorian. Because one thing that he does, which I don't think enough attention is brought to, is he hates droids so much that he manually inputs in all the hyperspace coordinates.
Oh, I couldn't imagine.
Instead of having just like a droid do it for him, he does it manually. which I imagine takes a lot of time and is annoying. But...
Can you imagine like fat thumbing a wrong like 2 and it's supposed to be a 1?
I imagine the computer stops you from crashing into a sun, but
let's hope.
What's the game? Elite Dangerous. It'll pull you out if.
Oh yeah. I've tried playing that game actually. I can't understand it.
I want to like it, but it's just it's a van simulator. You're literally just.
It really is.
But yeah, it's been 2 hours and 20 minutes now.
Okay.
I think an hour of that was indeed Star Wars.
Wait, we already knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, we knew it.
We set this up.
But yeah, so we're going to start ending soon-ish. But just to sum up what we've learnt, is you are a Lich Goblin. A Lich is a magic user who is undead with sentience, not just a necromancer, but they can be necromancers.
And they are not mutually. They are not mutually exclusive. You do not need to be a necromancer in order to be. I have heard of the theories of bard necromancers.
That would be
bard
cool.
Bard liches. But no, I have heard of rogue liches and bard liches.
Well, I guess. Can anything become a lich as long as they have the. Ow.
Greetings, champion.
Hello.
It can. So in order to become a lich, it is a ritual that you must undergo and quote unquote technically survive. So you can have an incredibly powerful magic user assist you in this process, or you do it yourself. But because it's such a forbidden taboo, doing it as a 2-person team is very unlikely, and you would have to do it yourself. But there are people that will do that. And at least within the D&D Pathfinder universe, there are the Red Wizards of Thay, who is a nation of like magic casters, and their high council are all liches.
I mean, it makes sense. It's just, or at least my takeaway from it is, wizards want to learn everything. They can't do that if they die, so they just become a lich. So they have
exactly same thing with like the bard liches. They want to become the eternal storytellers.
I can, like, of all the classes, it makes sense that bards. I hate to stereotype bards, but I will stop stereotyping bards when people stop playing the stereotype of a bard.
Make a bard librarian. Someone just do it. A bard librarian.
Okay, maybe if I had to play a bard, that would probably be it. I do have I wouldn't say a hatred, a dislike of bards, but that's probably because I played
a bard once with one of my friends as a new DM. He will never let me play a bard again. and not because I played a stereotypical one. It's because I literally, he was doing a book campaign, and I made too many good rolls and talking that I skipped like a third of the book.
Well, that's a DM problem. That's not your fault. Just because you get a natural 20 doesn't mean you automatically succeed. You just sort of convince him a bit more. It was a
series of things that like I convinced the bad guys to bring me to their base.
It's stuff like I rolled to seduce a dragon. Okay, you get a natural 20. It will kill you first. Instead of... It'll make it painless. There you go.
Yeah, I like that.
But yeah, there's... Anyway, before we go on another tangent about DMing and stuff, like...